Now then, you're joining me today on the banks of Windermere, and unfortunately I've got some quite bad news for you, and I'm here to talk about what I think is one of the biggest threats fishing has faced in my lifetime. But before we do that, I just want to give you all a quick update because it's on the similar sort of lines as when I made the Dead Pike Everywhere video. There was a major pollution event on the Lancaster Canal, hundreds of fish died, maybe even thousands, quite a few sizable pike too, and my update unfortunately is that there isn't any update, which I know might be really heartbreaking to a lot of you. The last thing I heard was about a month or two ago. Apparently they've known who's done it for quite a while and they are building a prosecution case against them. A few more regular updates would be great, but we've just not had anything, and I think I'm going to come back to this at the end. I think the Environment Agency is underfunded in this country, and as a result we're not seeing people held accountable for environmental damage that they're causing, both individuals and corporations. So the problem I'm going to be talking to you about today is sewage. Sewage is being pumped into our rivers, untreated sewage all over the country, and this is making its way into our lakes like Windermere. As well as that, I've seen some surprising videos lately of it coming out into the sea, all around beaches around the country. I mean, how is that allowed to happen? How is this allowed to happen? So we're going to dive into this example, which is Windermere. Windermere is really close to my heart. It's a lovely lake, it's near where I live. I've done a lot of videos fishing on Windermere, and Windermere does mean a lot to me as a person, and I've caught pike here, perch here, quite a few different things to be honest, and I've had a great time doing that, and I am hating to see what can only be really described as the death of Windermere if we don't do anything about it. So I'm very much going to be talking to you about this from a fishing perspective. This is a fishing channel. If you're watching this right now, if you follow me, you're likely into your fishing yourself, so that is what's really going to resonate with you, hopefully. So much like I will with the Dead Pike Everywhere video, I will be doing a follow-up with this. I'm not sure when that'll come. It'll probably come when there's more to talk about or a meaningful update, but hit that subscribe button below if you want to see that, or if you just want to see me fishing in some of my other videos. So at the end of this video, I'll also be telling you what you can do right now to help in this fight against sewage. So I just want to give you a very quick disclaimer first. I am no scientist, I'm no ecologist, no environmentalist, so I'm likely to get a few of these details wrong. So I'm not going to go into too much depth about the scientific aspect of things because it even confuses me when you get into the lingo of it. But what I'm going to try and do is present it in as clear and as simple as understanding as I can. I'm sorry if I miss any of these details out. As I said, no expert on the topic, just trying to do my part to let you all know what's going on. So to be honest, the major thing that really kicked off my interest in this and what made me really understand the severity of what was going on was when I saw what was happening at Convey. So that's a river that runs into Windermere, and there's a sewage works on it. There was an incident where, due to sewage, a lot of fish died, and that was including perch, trout, pike, and even a few endangered species like salmon, white claw crayfish, eels, the lot dead. And that was because of us as humans allowing sewage to be pumped into the river. I'll also show you now an example of, in Windermere, what a completely untouched river looks like in terms of sewage output. And now I'll show you a river that has experienced a lot of sewage, and the difference is just unbelievable. This is what we are doing to our environment, and we need to do something to help it, otherwise it's going to be too late. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is because we're anglers. We often get a lot of stick from certain groups or certain types of people for not caring about wildlife, and I want to show that actually we care a lot about wildlife and a lot about the world and nature, and as a group we can all come together. There's a lot of people that fish, and if just a handful of you did what I said at the end of this video, that would mean the world to me. And I know you might well be thinking, why is this happening on Windermere? Windermere is in the middle of a national park, generates huge amount of revenue for the UK economy. It's beautiful. Why would we not want to protect a place like this? It's absolutely stunning. And if this is happening here, imagine how bad it could get elsewhere in the country without any protection measures in place. So in 2020, just to give you a statistic, it was estimated that over 7,200 hours of raw sewage being pumped into the Windermere catchment was recorded. And if you think about what raw sewage is, I don't have to describe that to you, really, do I? Untreated, basically what you flush down the toilet to an extent. And that is going here. Hundreds of people swim in this lake every day. Kids play in it. I know I wouldn't anymore. And I'm going to be telling you now the mechanisms by which this is a problem. So what this does is it adds phosphorus into the water, and phosphorus actually acts as a fertilizer for algae. And while algae is a completely natural thing, excessive phosphorus can lead to big algal blooms, and we're talking all sorts of algae, but the concerning one, or the majorly concerning one, is blue-green algae. Now, we have seen at times Windermere transform to a completely green, disgusting, vile colour. Make no mistake, if you bring your dog here and it drinks enough of that water, it will die. If you go swimming and if you swallow that water, it'll make you really ill. And this is a huge problem for public health. In addition to that, water companies aren't accurately reporting what they're doing, so no one knows to the extent of the damage that's being done. And again, we just don't know how long we've got left before this turns into an absolute environmental catastrophe. No one wants to see every fish on Windermere dead, and I suppose, well, that's not realistic. Thousands and thousands of fish will die if a solution isn't found, and soon. So just to preempt what some of you might be thinking or might say, yes, algae, natural, has happened for thousands of years, but the extent to which it's happening is just completely unnatural. The severity of these situations. You've got this, and you've got water companies complaining of lack of funding. You've got executives at the top getting big paychecks, big bonuses. Think what you want about that, but to me it just doesn't seem right. So other than the obvious toxicity of certain kinds of algae, another big problem is that what all algae does is it reduces the dissolved oxygen levels in water. And you know, fish need oxygen to live. I've seen this myself. I've seen fish in Windermere being very docile compared to last year and the year before. It's just been getting worse and worse from what I've seen. Fish need oxygen to live, and all this algae is reducing the oxygen in the lake. It is hard to see, and there's been fish deaths already, like unrelated to individual sewage events. There has been fish deaths resulting from this already, and it is already happening. So you might have to excuse my science knowledge here, but benthic algal bloom, so when the algae happens, basically because of the phosphorus, which is because of the sewage, then this sits on lake beds and river beds and completely kills a lot of fish spawn and a lot of invertebrates. And this sort of thing is what's vital for the next generation of fish in our country. And the invertebrates, for example, that's exactly what all the perch are going to be eating, all the smaller fish species, which obviously the bigger fish species feed on, and then the bigger fish species feed on like that. So you've got your perch eating that, and then your pike eating the perch, and eventually it's just going to have knock-on effects all the way up the food chain. And I'm not necessarily looking at this from a selfish fishing perspective. There's going to be no fish for me to catch anymore. It's more of a, I want to preserve what we have now for future generations, and what we have now understandably is worse than what we had 10 years ago from a fishing perspective, and I don't want to be part of the problem, i.e. people not doing their individual part to help work to an overall solution. So what can you do to help? Let's get into that, should we? Let's see what you can do right now that's really going to make a difference. So the most important thing I want you to do is follow the link in the description, and that's going to take you to a petition run by someone called Matt Stanek, and that is really what's going to help. I highly recommend you drop him a follow on Instagram as well. I'll leave that in the description below. He's been kind enough to let me use a load of shots, some footage, some of the other clips, pictures you might have seen earlier on in this video. So yeah, drop him a follow. He's doing huge things for Windermere and the general fight against sewage and pollution, so it's a good one to keep up to date with. When you get there, have a read. That'll describe to you in much better detail than I could ever in a short video about what's going on technically, a bit more stats, a bit more data to back it up, and probably a lot better of an explanation. And also, if you wanted to take it another step further, then you can write a letter to your local MP. And then thirdly, share the story, share this video, share the petition, share any of the news articles written about it, and let's get as many eyes on this as possible. If everyone watching this sign the petition and pass this on to a couple more people, then overall I'm sure we could make a big difference as a fishing community. It's time to do your part, step up and help save Windermere. And of course, it's not just Windermere that I don't want this to be a problem on. This happens all over the country. I'm just using this as a local example to me, and sort of as a proxy to show you the extent of what's happening in the world. If this is successful, then that only sets a foundation for more action in the future. I've got a 9-month-old baby at home. I want him to be able to fish all his life happily, knowing he's not in water full of poo and other human waste, wouldn't you? Hopefully I'll see you for the next video. Thanks again for watching. thanks in advance for signing the petition, and hopefully next video I'll bring you, I'll be able to get back to the fishing and it won't be quite as depressing. So I'll catch you down the road.